Hello, everybody, and welcome to our weekly webinar, Paperless Learning. This week, we were going to talk about teacher wellness. We'll go over what the agenda will look like, but before we get into it, I wanted to introduce myself, and we want to introduce ourselves. So my name is Janan. I was a tutor with paper for many years before I started working at headquarters, so I know what it's like to teach and learn remotely, and I know the challenges there. I also was a teacher, a classroom teacher, and I currently still do teach online. It's a one-to-one setting, but I do that as well. So I'm really excited to be here and to help you all learn a little bit more about how to stay healthy while working from home.
My name is Lisa, and to give you folks a little bit of context about who I am also part of the paper team, but leading up to joining the paper team, I got my BA in Educational Studies and then my BEd in Primary Education, and then taught for a few years. I have about 5-6 years of classroom experience now, if I use my brain to think way back when. And then I came along and I joined the paper team. I feel very strongly about equity for education, and I'm super excited to talk about teacher wellness with you folks. It's a topic I'm very, very passionate about myself.
So just before we get into it, last week, this is our third week of the Paperless Learning webinar, which we're really excited about. Last week, we spoke about classroom management, and the week before, we spoke about lesson planning. We do have those webinars available on our YouTube page if you want to go there and watch them if ever you missed them. So they're there and accessible to you at any moment. And we also have a Q&A section. So you can type your questions there if you'd like, but I just would like to let you know that the Q&A section is questions that we're going to be answering at the end of the webinar. And if there are any questions or comments that you have as we go on, you can use the chat function for that, and we'll get to those right away.
We also might toss some questions at you folks throughout the presentation just to hopefully keep you a little involved. So feel free to answer them in the chat box if you feel so inclined. But if you would prefer to kind of just sit and watch, that's no problem as well.
Absolutely, and feel free also to just comment on any of the topics that we're going to be talking about today and what your practices are and what you think about it. So this is what our agenda today is going to look like. So what we're going to talk about, as we've mentioned, teacher wellness and how to stay healthy and sane at home. So some of the topics that we're going to be covering consist of morning routine, positivity in general, workspace, scheduling, staying healthy, and exploring interests.
So to jump right into it, the biggest and most prominent thing for us right now is probably embracing change. We're all experiencing change from what we have typically had in our workspace, in our daily lives, and that is okay. Things are going to be different. We will adjust and we will succeed, but it can definitely be a little scary for us. And I know for myself, it can be very hard for me to let go of some control. So just accepting that change will happen and reminding myself as much as possible as I go through this process that we will be okay, we will get through this, and it's going to be all right. And remembering to also be kind to yourself. We're going through many different adjustments. There's going to be a huge learning curve that we experience. And so we don't need to expect perfection from ourselves in these moments. This is going to be when it's really, really important to be kind to yourself. I always like to say what we see from others is their highlight reel, and what we see from ourselves is our behind the scenes reel. So we need to keep that in mind as well. We're also going to have to establish a morning routine. I'm sure most of us already have a morning routine going on. So one of the things that you could possibly do is actually just keep it the same. That would be very nice. It would also be the simplest for us. So maybe your routine is waking up at a certain time of day, hopping in the shower, getting yourself fresh and ready, heading downstairs for breakfast or coffee, sitting down at a table. If that's what your routine is, keep it the same. Even if you're just working from home, wake up at the same time. That's what your body is intrinsically used to. So if you're able to, don't fight against it. Maybe you want to even maintain the fact that you had a commute to work. So maybe you leave for a little walk and then come back. And that way it's kind of still like leaving the house and going to your workspace. You can also create a new routine if you feel that you need to. By creating a new routine, it'll help set yourself up for a productive day. Maybe your routine was very, very different. Maybe you had an hour-long train commute to work and it's just not plausible for you to keep that routine. Or maybe you had to wake up at 5 a.m. and you're going, hey, I kind of have a chance right now to not wake up at 5 a.m. every day. So I'm just going to create a new routine for myself. You can try things like meditating in the morning to try to get yourself in that headspace so that you're ready. The most important thing is going to be finding what works for you and not being afraid to try different things out. Maybe you're going to want to try to keep your routine the same at first, and you're going to find, oh, that doesn't work for me. Let me toss that out. Okay, now I'm going to try creating a new routine. Oh, you know what? This one doesn't work for me either. What if I put them together? It's going to be, as I said before, a learning curve. So just not being afraid to accept the change, as we said before, and just finding what is really going to get you in the groove for your work day.
And it really doesn't have to be complicated either. You don't have to do 2 hours of yoga every morning before you start your workday. It does not have to be complicated. A routine as simple as getting up and just changing out of the clothes that you slept in. Even if you want to stay in some comfortable clothing, that's 100% okay. And we even encourage it. You want to be comfortable when working, but just make sure that they're clothes that they're not the ones that you slept in. Changing into a fresh pair of clothes is going to really change your mindset on the right track. So it can really be little things. Just like Lisa mentioned, it's really about finding what works best for you. So, going off of that, it's really important to have the right mindset. So, finding routines that bring positive thoughts and feelings are going to set you up properly for the day and put you in that right mindset. So, different routines that we can do, as we've mentioned, meditation is one of them. So, if this is something that you're capable of doing, we would highly suggest adding this to your routine. You can clear your mind either before the workday or after the workday. Once again, whatever works best for you. We do have some suggestions of apps. So two of the ones that came really highly recommended are Calm and Headspace. There are a lot of different applications though that you can find. These are just two of the more popular ones. But if they don't offer the features that you like, there are so many out there that can offer specific features. So it's just about finding the one that you think would be best for you. Deep breaths. We cannot stress this enough. This is probably one of the most important things. So just giving yourself the time to take a deep breath and allow yourself to kind of check in with yourself. And if you're feeling the stress build up, deep breaths is very important for that. And so is positive talk. So an example of a simple routine that you can do to foster positive self-talk is just by getting up, taking your deep breaths in the morning before you get out of bed, and saying out loud that your day will go well. Say, oh, today I'm happy for this reason, and my day is going to go really well. So I know that a routine like this can be also difficult to remember. Especially if it's something that you're not used to doing all the time. So just make sure that you have your little reminders to help you remember these routines that will really help put you in the right mindset. So whether that means sticky notes next to your bed or a reminder on your phone, maybe when your alarm goes off in the morning, there will be a message that says, hey, talk to yourself positively today, until it's ingrained in you. And so we know how important it is to have a positive mindset. So even if your day ends up going wrong, which it might, right? We don't know when we wake up whether our day is going to be really great or not. Just going into it with the positive self-talk and with the mindset that it will be a good day is going to really make you handle different issues that might come up differently in a much better light as well.
One expert, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, talks a lot about how important it is to solicit positive and good intentions with our students. And I am a firm believer that what's good for our students is also good for us. So maintaining that positivity and maintaining that positive self-talk is a form of soliciting good intentions for ourselves as well. And that's going to be very critical for us moving forward in these times.
Another really important aspect of working from home is creating distinct spaces. So, what we mean by this is really just by separating your workspace with your relaxation space. So, make a designated spot for work in your home. So, this is probably one of the most important things that we can do. As we know, the beauty about going into school every morning is that it's in a different location. And when we're there, we're in the zone and we're working. And we do know as teachers that we tend to bring our work home with us. So this is a practice that you can take away even after we're back in the physical setting as well. Just make sure that when you're home, if you have a place to work, like your desk space, make sure that it's separate from a place and it's really designated for that. So it's really important for this to be able to mentally check in and out of work. So when you are in your designated space, you can allow yourself to really focus and be there for work. And when you leave that space, even if it's just to go and get yourself a glass of water, you can allow yourself to mentally check out for a minute and just really focus on something that isn't work. So it's really important to be able to do this for boundaries and to allow yourself to not overwork yourself. And if possible, of course, don't work where you relax. So if the space that you're in allows for it, try to make it somewhere that's away from your bedroom or your couch. Just because if you make the place where you work your bedroom or your couch, you're going to start associating. There's a lot of studies that's been made about this. You're going to start associating the place where you relax with stress and with work, and it's really important to try and avoid this as much as possible and allow yourself to work when you're at work and allow yourself to relax when you leave work. So this is an example of my space at home. I'm back at my parents' right now, so you don't see the plant behind me. But this is my personal workspace. So my apartment's quite a small one, so I have a little pull-out desk, and that's where I allow myself to check into work every morning. And when I leave, I allow myself to check out for a second. So it's really, this is an example of a designated workplace that you have.
So, working from home can definitely blur the lines between work and our personal life. So, a big piece of advice would be don't overdo it. As educators, I'm sure you're all very familiar with this photo and basically what a typical Saturday night looks like for us teachers. Hopefully, yours looks a little bit different. If you want to share what your isolation Saturday night has been looking like, feel free to mention it in the chat. We would love to hear from you, maybe get some ideas of what we can do during this social distance time. But for the most part, it's going to be really important to make sure that we dial it back a little bit. I know that the Ontario school boards and education system is actually suggesting to teachers that they not give more than 5 hours of homework per week. So that's 5 hours for the entire week. That's a typical full day for us when we're in the actual physical classroom. So take this chance to, once again, be kind to yourself. Dial it back a little bit. Don't expect yourself to have these, crazy plans that were so student centered, because we're going to have to adapt to them and adapt to what's going on. And it's an opportunity to make sure that you're not, overextending yourself and burning yourself out. We need to, again, put the trust in our students and really trust that they're going to get the work done that we have given to them, and that we're going to be able to use that work to assess them if you're still assessing them, and that they're still going to learn from that work, because the things you are giving them is still very much so quality academics. It's just going to be looking a little bit different from what we're used to. So that being said, you also need to know when to unplug. As we have kind of mentioned a little bit, working physically and mentally can be detrimental to your health when you're doing it 24/7. And when we're at home, it's very hard to walk away at certain times. Janan mentioned it a little bit, but it's going to be so important moving forward that you have a set start time and a set finish time. And as hard as it can be, especially as educators, because we're so used to giving so much of ourselves over, we have to respect those set start times and set finish times. It's definitely something that I'm dealing with right now and having to force myself, it's, this time, it's time for me to step away. But that's going to be what really helps you not burn out in the long run, especially as we're learning how to do distance teaching, how to do remote learning. And it's going to be super, super important for you moving forward.
And of course, take time for yourself. So I know how obvious this sounds, but the reality is that we are all very guilty of not taking this time for ourselves and just working throughout the day. And in the situation that we find ourselves in now more than ever, it's very important that you give yourself this time. So how do we do that? Step away is one of the biggest tips that we can give to you. So just removing yourself from your environment. I touched on it a little bit before. Even if it's a social media break. So if you need to give yourself a break and you want to just check your social media for 5 minutes before you get back to your work, change your space. Don't do it in your workspace. Just allow yourself to remove yourself from that space. Keep that space for work alone, so that you can really start and trick your mind into saying that when you're not in that space, it means that you're not at work. So even if you have an impending deadline, so think about what we tell our students. We always tell them that cramming for a test the day before is the worst thing that you can probably do, and that rest is just as important, if not more, than studying. So in that same way, breaks are really necessary throughout the day for you to be able to recharge and refuel, and for you to stay productive and sharp. So make sure that they become an essential part of your workday and make them a priority. So some examples of break that you can take, I've already mentioned a small social media break. You can also take a short walk. You can take a nap. You can watch an episode of a show. You can play a video game, whatever it is. Just remember to leave your space and stick to your allotted break time that you set for yourself, and how much time you need for you to be able to come back to your work and do it in a focused and positive mindset. And it's really important to know yourself in this setting. So not everybody can take all the kinds of breaks that I've mentioned. So I know for myself, if I watch one episode of a show, I'm going to get sucked in. And before I know it, it's 9 p.m. and it's time for bed. So that's not a break that I'm able to take. And I know that. And similarly, I cannot take short naps. I know some of my friends who can nap for 15 minutes and they come back and they're ready. Me, I cannot. If I take a nap, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. So that's another break that I cannot take. So it's really just about finding the activity that's best for you. Know yourself and know what you need to be able to come back to your work focused and ready.
Make sure you set yourself a to-do list every day. A lot of us are being forced into a situation that we're not familiar with, that can maybe make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. And, as obvious as it might seem for some of us, just taking that time to sit down and write out your list of what you need to do, and prioritizing the most important things at the top, and the maybe, if I have time to get to this later, I'll do this later at the bottom. And to also keep in mind that these priorities might change throughout the day. I'm sure it's happened to all of us, where you've gotten a phone call and all of a sudden you have to deal with this emergency, and what used to be at the top of your list is now at the bottom of your list, and you've got maybe a whole bunch of other things at the top of the list now. But it's going to be very important moving forward for yourselves to keep that in mind and be okay with that as much as possible, and as much as we, mostly myself, may struggle with the change. But it's going to help you keep organized in the long run. And it might seem like you have a giant mountain of things to do, but again, that's where it's going to be important to stop, take a deep breath, and just remind yourself that it's going to be okay, and solicit those good intentions, as Gordon Neufeld often talks about. One of the ways I would like to share with you how I like to keep myself organized is my bullet journal. For me, so here's a picture of it. This is a very fun week because it was actually my brother's wedding that week. So we had the rehearsal dinner and the wedding and some lunch stuff. But for me, it's also a way that I can have a creative outlet as well. And it's a form of meditation for me, because meditation in the stricter sense is not necessarily a way that I relax, but this is a way that I relax. I could sit with my bullet journal for hours. If it's something that you folks are interested in, Natalie's outlet on YouTube actually has great little DIYs for bullet journals and shows you different things that you can put into yours. One of the things that I actually put into my bullet journal is a list of things that help me relax and calm down when I'm feeling a little bit anxious or when I'm a little bit stressed by a new situation. So I've definitely been referring to that page a lot lately. And sometimes it's just nice to have that reminder written down. Making your to-do list will also help you create a schedule for yourself. So make a clear schedule of what your day is going to look like. Sit down and start work at 9 a.m. This is the first task that I'll do. At 10 a.m., I'm going to start doing this task. And of course, keep in mind to be flexible with yourself. And again, things are always ever changing in one day. So your schedule might change along with that. But creating that schedule will also help you keep your defined set and finish time. So those are really going to be the best ways to make sure that you kind of take everything that we previously talked about and implement it into your day. And make sure to schedule breaks for yourself as well. It's very easy when you're at home to just work through your lunch or work through your dinner, and all of a sudden you started work at 9 and now it's 8 p.m. and oh my gosh, where did the day go? So schedule breaks for yourself. Maybe you need to put multiple alarms in your phone so that it goes off and you go, oh, this means I need to go take 15 minutes to go for a walk or to go eat lunch or whatever type of break that you need. But that's going to be very important for you.
And the blocks of time in your schedule are going to look different for everybody. So, once again, it's about knowing yourself and how best you work. Maybe you are the type of person who works 9 to 4 nonstop, and then afterwards you're done for the day. But maybe you're also the type of person who works 1 hour at a time and you need your breaks in between. So, whatever the best way that you work is, it's okay. There's no set way to do things. There's no rule book. So it's really just scheduling the blocks for yourself of like, okay, I need to work from this time to this time. I need to work here, and just really following your schedule as best as possible.
And having a set schedule is something that we're also very familiar with as educators. We have a set schedule when we're at school and we're in the physical classroom. We have a set time that we start our day. We have a set time that our students go for gym or go for lunch, or that we have our planning period. So it'll also help provide you a little bit of consistency in this ever-changing time.
And of course, going off of that, schedule time with your loved ones. So, this is important and sounds like another obvious thing, but we're given this opportunity to be with our families. And when we're all working from home, trying to learn from home, and just being around each other all the time, it can be very easy to forget to actually take this time together, since you're always around each other. So, this can be things like whether it's eating dinner together or watching a movie or playing games, a little game night, whatever that may be. Put it in your schedule and stick to it. It's really important to have this time. We're given this opportunity to spend more time with our families. So let's do it. And even Zoom chats with your friends. So if it'll help you stay connected, so the people that you don't have the chance of seeing all the time, make sure that you schedule your time in with them as well, so you can talk to them over Skype. So just this will really help you as well to keep yourself from getting lonely during this time, which will be very easy for all of us to do with what we find ourselves in. And of course, stay healthy. So make sure you're moving. So this will really help you bring the energy into your class and into the work that you're doing, and will help remove the stress as well that you're no doubt feeling. So you can try a new fitness app. The three that I would like to personally shout out, because they're giving out some free trials at the moment. So this is a really great one, Peloton. So they have a 90-day free trial at the moment, and there's a bunch of different activities that you can find on there, from strength training to running. There's even meditation on there as well, so you can try it out. There's also Crunch Fitness right now, that it's doing a 45-day free trial, and on there, there's once again whole different kinds of activities that you can find, like dance and yoga, kickboxing. There's Pilates, there's bar, there's so many different kinds of activities that you can find on there. And of course, let's say your free trials run out and you still need some extra workouts to do. There's always YouTube fitness accounts that are always giving free classes, and two of the more popular ones that I know of that I can suggest are Yoga with Adrian and Yoga with Tim. So they both have a bunch of challenges on there. And it's all free. It's all accessible to anybody. And make sure, of course, that you make the time to exercise, add it into your schedule, and stick to it. And you can also make this an event with your colleagues and friends and family. If you're someone who is more motivated in a group setting, which is totally fair, you can schedule the time and ask your colleagues and your friends if they'd be interested in doing a workout with you over Skype, and your family as well. If you live with your family, then you can for sure get them in on it as well. And this is another one that seems like it's super obvious, but I'm sure you know how much this is easier said than done. So we're not moving as much in the setting that we're in right now. And so it's really easy to forget to pick up a glass of water and eat healthy, or not stress eat the entire bag of chips, which I know I've been quite guilty of doing over the past few weeks more than once. So it's really easy to fall into these bad habits. So really just try your best to keep yourself in check with this, and it will really help with your mood and your energy. And similarly to eating, it's really important to stay hydrated. So I know I'm super guilty of not drinking as much water as I should, especially if I'm not walking to work like I usually do. So just keeping a jug of water on your desk, a giant jug, will remind you that it's there. There are also different applications. So I use, I forget the name of it, but I do use one that gives me reminders every hour that, oh, it's time to drink your glass of water. And so whatever you need to do to remind yourself to stay healthy in this way, do it. And your body and your mind will be thankful for it.
It's going to be important to remember to limit the amount of news that you take in as well. There's daily updates that are going on, especially in the world of education. We're constantly being inundated with updates upon updates upon updates, and it can be very stressful to constantly be receiving that. So make sure that you block off certain times if that's what you're comfortable with of when you're going to check it. I personally suggest checking it at the end of the day. I know when I was looking at the news at the beginning of the day, sometimes if there was a piece of news that, was maybe a little bit more stressful or anxiety inducing, it would just, set a certain tone for my day that you don't really want to start your workday off with. So having that control and having a set time where you're going to go look at it will be huge for you. And it is important to stay informed. So we do need to make sure that we check the news. One thing that I've been hearing a lot on education Twitter or on YouTube as well is the hashtag alert not anxious. And I've seen a lot of conversations about controlling the amount of news that's being consumed, and that, choosing really valuable sources and not just looking at every single article that you come across is what's really helping people to stay alert and not anxious in this moment. And be transparent with your students as well. Have discussions with your students about everything that we've discussed in this webinar today. I'm a firm believer in modeling behavior. So tell them how you're coping during this time and how you're dealing with stress, and have that conversation that can sometimes be a little hard, but it's definitely going to be a very important conversation to have with your students right now, because if we're feeling stressed, we can only imagine how they must be feeling. And so it's a prime time to have that conversation with them and to share coping mechanisms with them as well, especially for the students where we don't necessarily know what's going on in their home life and what they're dealing with, to just continue to provide that socio-emotional support for them that they're used to getting at school.
And it's important as well to just make sure that you add some positive viewing into the intake that you're taking. So this is going to be really important. You don't just have to read about the negative things going on. So make sure that you're looking into things that you enjoy hearing about as well. And this will really help with your mindset. And now is a time that we can explore some new interests and try something new. So we're given this time, we find ourselves with a little bit of extra free time in the evenings. So use it to explore interests that you didn't have the time to try before. And as I'm sure all of you know, we've heard that studies show that hobbies and interests help us stay positive, which is going to be of paramount importance in this during this time. So some different hobbies and interests that are very easy for you to take up right now are things like knitting, journaling, as we've shown before. There's coloring and drawing. You can also learn a new language. You can take a photography course online or look up different ways to help you with your photography, and then test it out, try it out, and make it a little hobby when you go on your walks. So there's different things that you can do. There are a lot of online courses that are being offered for free right now. So I know that Harvard X has a bunch of online courses that are free usually, and right now they're offering a few extra ones. And right now Yale is also offering a course that is called How to Be Happier in Your Daily Life. So this is one of their more popular courses, and they're offering it for free at the moment. So this could definitely help you during this time as well. And that brings us to a wrap today. So if you have any questions, please feel free. We're going to be here to answer any questions that you may have. While you do so, we wanted to just tell you what we're going to be talking about next week. So next week, we're talking about evaluation in an emergency learning setting and what evaluation looks like, and different online tools that you can use, and just best practices on how to evaluate. So we hope to see you there. Next week, we are changing our time of the Thursday webinar. So we're going to be doing it at 1 p.m. ET instead of 4 p.m. as we have been doing. We found that it's been a better time and people have responded to it better. So we're going to do that. If you have any questions, please feel free to either email Lisa or myself. Our emails are here on the slide. And tomorrow, you should be getting a follow-up email, and I'm going to add a little resource that we found today. It's a PDF on teacher wellness that just lists a bunch of resources with links that Lisa found for us. That's really great, and we hope that you'll be able to find some use out of it.
We have a question. Any tips on how to relax after work? That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. One thing that I've been doing is adult coloring books, actually. I have, since I come from an elementary school background, I have a very large collection of markers that I am very proud of. So I bought a couple of extra adult coloring books. So I like to just toss on some music, especially if I'm feeling a little down. I like to toss on some music that's a little happier and just sit there for a couple of hours and just color.
Yeah, I also have adult coloring books. They're so much fun. Highly recommend. But if coloring is not something that you enjoy doing, what I put it in my schedule every day. As soon as my work day is done, I have a block of time that says be creative. So sometimes I'll read a book, sometimes I'll draw, sometimes I will color, and sometimes I'll practice crocheting, which is a new little hobby that I've taken up. So it's just about it's really about exploring your interests, as we've mentioned, and finding a new hobby. And even if it's an old hobby, you can do that as well, just finding something that calms you down. It tends to be work that's quite meticulous, and it's very therapeutic to just really work on something during that time. So you can for sure do your hobby after work, and it'll help you relax.
So there don't seem to be any other questions. As Janan, oh, we have another one. Any best practices? Oh, I can't speak. Any best practices to stop dwelling on parents who are pressuring you for their child's success? Definitely. So that's where we actually mentioned in one of our previous webinars, having certain check-in times with parents so that they have a specific time that they can attend in order for them to speak to you about these things, and then just maintaining those boundaries. I know one thing that I used to do when I was teaching was I made sure to never answer any emails past a certain time, because I didn't want parents to get used to getting an email from me at 8 p.m. because that's just not the best boundaries that I could have in place for that type of contact. So just maintain that for when you're doing distance teaching as well, and having those scheduled check-ins with them.
And I think a lot of it too is just about being transparent. So just letting the parents know that, we're all in a very unique situation right now, and we're all doing our very best with what we're given and what we're being told to do. So just letting the parents know that, yes, it's important for the child to succeed, but right now what's most important is that we're all staying safe, and we are doing what we can, and we recognize that. And but yeah, check-ins are definitely going to be important. Great. So I think there are no more questions, so we're going to stop it here. Thank you so much for coming to our webinar. We hope to see you again next week, and have a great week, and we'll see you then.